The FNL Network Talk Show.
Hi guys, and welcome to the FNL Network Talk Show. I'm Lisa, and I'm joined by two beautiful goddesses today. We have Kay and we have Diana. And I've got to say, girls, I have total hair envy right now because my little lot that I have got is not the best in life. It's not very thick, and you guys are here with like beautifully styled hair. So I have hair envy right now. But moving on from my hair envy, how are you girls today? How's your week been?
It's been an eventful week. I'm happy to be here. I was actually telling Kat before the show, I checked out Halloween Horror Nights at Universal last night. So I'm coming off that high.
Yeah, I saw it on Instagram. It looked absolutely amazing. I was like, oh my God, I want to go. I want to go so badly. I was like swiping through your stories and I was obsessed, absolutely obsessed.
Yeah.
So, hey, how have you been?
It's been pretty good. I got sideswiped this week, so I'm in a rental, but I didn't get any injuries, and the person that hit me isn't injured, so that's good.
That is good, because you know, like I recently had a car crash, and yeah, there was no injuries, but the girl's going for injuries. So I'm just glad you're okay, because it's never nice to have to deal with that. So I'm just happy you're okay, the other person's okay, and if the car's got a bit of a bang, then so be it, you know. Anyway, girlies, moving on, we have a very different type of show today. Each of us are going to ask a question, but me being the host, I get two. And I'm going to start with my first question. As we all know, the Queen of England, Her Royal Highness, Queen Elizabeth II, died just over 2 weeks ago, I think. And since then, it's been a media frenzy. You haven't heard about the Ukraine. You haven't heard about hurricanes and global warming and fires and floods and everything else. It's been Queen this, Queen that, and everything else. So I want to talk about the Queen's death, the funeral, and all the events that led up to it. I want to know what you thought about the media's coverage, because there was good, there was bad, and there was ugly. And by ugly, I'm talking about the wooden spoon, S**T, stirring ugly. I want to know what you thought about the British traditions. We had a 10-day mourning period. We had a couple of vigils where the royal family themselves stood by the coffin and guarded the Queen. We had members of the public queuing for 13, 14, 15, 16 plus hours just to file past the coffin. The florists in the UK, they were rubbing their hands with glee as cha-ching, 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 cha-ching was happening, because people left hundreds of thousands, if not probably millions of flowers at places, you know, all the Queen's residences and stuff like that. People were traveling to London in hordes. They left things like Paddington Bears, marmalade sandwiches, but bizarre things. Leaving bizarre things is quite British. We are eccentric. I want to know what you thought about the funeral itself, the pomp and circumstance, all the military, the A to Z of everybody who's anybody in the power, the world's leaders were all there. And so I want to know what you thought about the British traditions, all the military, the pomp and circumstance. But I also want to know if you thought the funeral itself was worth 2.6 billion, that's billion, not million, US dollars just for the funeral day itself. And I want to know what you think about the British taxpayer having to cover that cost. So it's quite a lot to talk about. We're going to start with you, Diana.
Yeah, so I don't know if the right word to use is enjoyed, but hopefully you get what I'm trying to say. It was interesting to me to watch this whole funeral. When I was little, I think it was 97 was when Princess Diana passed. I was only 5 at the time. So I remember seeing a lot of coverage. I actually went to my mom's job in the city and they had like a little TV with it on. So this is obviously something that we here are interested in viewing. It's like any other big global news story. Obviously, when another one I remember when I was little was when John F. Kennedy's brother got shot. That was, or not shot, sorry, plane crash. When he was in a plane crash, that was all over the news. That's another, like, one of the first ones I remember. So this is something like that, right? It's a figure of significance passing. She's done a lot for not only Great Britain, but many other countries. She's a leader. She's someone everyone knows. So I don't really have a problem. I thought it was interesting to see so much coverage of her funeral. Obviously, because that's happening, these other stories don't stop. But like any other of these significant events, they're just pushed to the side for a little bit, and we have this bigger focus. It was interesting to see some of the traditions. I've always been very interested in other countries' traditions. In fact, when I went to England with college, we did the tour of Parliament, and they told the story about like Blackrod and how it's literally his job to bang on the door and get the door slammed in his face. Like, I thought that was the coolest thing. I admire that there are just so many symbolic things that, you know, England does that we don't do here. And just, you know, the people standing by her coffin and the moment of silence and the big hats. And I don't know what it means, but I just want to watch it because it's just something we don't have here, and I want to learn more about it. So I really admired that. I was watching CNN a lot, and the anchor there, I don't remember who was covering, but she was going up to people in the street and asking them how long they've been waiting. The line was miles long, and it's just so heartwarming to see people come like pay their respects. It's so many people. I can't tell you how many people were there, but the line was miles long, and just everyone coming together to show their respects, to reflect on her life. It's really like awe-inspiring in a way. It stirs up a lot of emotions and feelings. So watching that, so I'm glad we were able to see that in our homes, because there's obviously no way we were getting to England to be able to see it for ourselves. I think we're really privileged that we can all have a piece of that in our homes. Now, that is an expensive funeral. I'm not going to lie to you. I feel like if I can't fully speak to how I feel about that, because I am not in the position of being British. Like, I'm sure people were not happy that their tax money was going to that. And I'm sure some people do feel that is something just, because if they were really in support of the Queen and it's someone they admired, I feel like they might not have any issue. But if it's someone who's maybe more progressive and they're done with the monarchy, I can see how they would be annoyed about that. Now, the one problem I did have with all this was I follow Daily Mail on Instagram, and I know they have a reputation for kind of being shady. And they posted one of the only pictures they posted of Meghan Markle was like, Meghan sheds a tear at the Queen's funeral, and they knew exactly what they were doing with that, because all the comments on that post were like, she's being fake, and I'm like, that is disgusting, because here's a woman who lost her mother-in-law. Yeah, she and Harry are not part of the working royal family anymore, but you could see with pictures they had that's someone she admired and respected. So for the Daily Mail to kind of make a mockery of that and almost frame it as like funeral coverage, that's the only thing that didn't sit right with me.
I agree with some of that. When I was looking, because I followed it obviously quite intensely because I am British.
Yeah.
But when I was seeing some of the media's coverage, and it's like Meghan Markle is recording for her podcast, because there was a picture of her dress when she was outside Windsor Castle looking at the flowers, and someone decided she had a little recording box on her hip. And there was just a lot of the wooden spoon stuff going on, you know, that she was fake and everything else. And I was just like, leave them alone. Because I just thought it isn't the time, it isn't the place to be, you know, just causing trouble, causing hatred. You know, give them a break. She doesn't deserve that. She's there. She's not been with her kids for about 3 weeks. You know, she's there doing what she's supposed to do as a loving wife, which is support her husband. And she's honoring the British tradition. So I hated the wooden spoon stirring stories. I liked a lot of the coverage, but I'm going to give my opinions later. And the big hats you talk about, they're called bearskins. And
what was that? I didn't hear that part.
They're called bearskins.
Okay.
The big hats, so the big tall,
Yes.
the guards in red. The guards in red are actually the Queen's royal guards. and they're the ones that we see at changing of the guard and everything else. So they're a special division of the army. My friend's husband's actually a bearskin. He's in the Coldstream Guards. So at her wedding, she had 6 of them, and they all had their swords up, and they walked through the swords with the men in their bearskin outfits. It was like really something.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so it is. It's the Queen's inner protection. It is. There's a lot of them, but it's, you know, they're active members of the army. But obviously they do a lot of military processions and stuff like that, and they ride the horses and stuff like that. So, you know, they're out for weddings, they're out for things like the Jubilee, they're out for changing of the guards, for birthdays, you name it. They have, you know, military processions to do, because it's a very quick thing and it's steeped in history. Anyway,
it's like the Secret Service, but more fashionable.
It's probably nothing like the Secret Service, because they are the army. But I love that idea. I love the idea that perhaps these guys are like MI5 guarding the Queen, you know. But that's not the reality. They are a division of the army, and they do go actively out to like places like Afghanistan and stuff like that.
Wow.
So
I didn't know that.
They do. They're not just there with the Queen the whole time. They're actually active servicemen.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's very different, as you said, for people from the outside world to be looking in, because obviously I grew up with all this, so for me it's kind of normal. They come out at weddings, they came out with Princess Diana died, you know. It is, as a kid we used to go to London just to see changing of the guards, because you don't see those sort of guards every day. You only see them at the palaces and stuff like that. So it's very different, and it's very British, I'm going to say, and it's something that I think the world as a whole sees as British, because they associate the bearskin guards. They see one of those and they think Queen, Buckingham Palace, you know.
Yeah.
So, Kay, what are your thoughts on all this?
Well, I thought the media coverage was accurate because I listened to NPR and they barely covered it. So that was great with me, because I don't care about it much at all. I don't really follow royals. Once in a while, when a cute kid pops up, you know, when Prince George went to see Barack Obama, he had his little robe on. That was adorable. So those little moments like that. And of course, I love Meghan and Harry, and I follow them. But as far as the family and the Queen, and I really don't keep up with them, and I wasn't watching regular news. I don't watch TV news. I get my news from online sources and from the radio. So NPR just gave a passing, you know, kind of glance to it, which was fine with me, and they covered a lot of Puerto Rico coverage and a lot of storm coverage, because there was actually a storm nearing California. It didn't make landfall, but it was Hurricane Kay, last week, which is really exciting to me. Yeah, so I just thought, all right, well, I mean, it's just sad that someone died, but I don't particularly care. The most coverage I saw was probably on my Instagram, and my Instagram, I follow an Instagram called Black Twitter Threads, and it was funny. It was a little bit savage, because, you know, the monarchy is imperialist, right? It's colonialism, you know, at its heart. And so a lot of people from other countries who want to be sovereign nations that are still ruled by Britain didn't care at all, you know, and had some really funny stuff to say about some atrocities they felt like were done under the monarchy. And so there was some good, funny, just memes about that situation. So that was mostly how I followed it, through Twitter threads and memes that were funny. So yeah, I mean, I feel like I saw the consensus that I saw was Black Twitter and Irish Twitter going hand in hand. Irish Twitter was really going ham. I saw a soccer game with people chanting "Liz is in a box," which I thought was wild. Yeah, so that was pretty much what I watched. And then I caught a couple of Megan's outfits, which but that was pretty much it. I was not interested in seeing the procession or, seeing people wait 15 hours in line. I mean, I heard about that and that seems insane, but the idea that it was $2.6 billion, I mean, is nuts to me. I remember hearing a story last year and they said like the crown, if they cashed in the crown jewels, it could pay for the national health program for like the next 10 years for every citizen. I just thought that's insane. So to me, the monarchy just seems very archaic. It seems outdated. I know a lot of people actually there want to get away with it, do away with it, but I know there's a long process. I was reading up on it, and I know they have to. It's basically in their constitution, so they have to Parliament has to overturn it through a constitutional act, and then before Parliament even does that, the people have to vote on a referendum, and then Parliament has to bring the referendum to the people. I mean, it's just like a whole long situation. But I think if the monarchy does fall, it'll probably fall on Charles's watch, because I don't think there's a lot of support or love for him. I think there's way more for William, but I think it's going to be real shaky through this period of time that he's going to have it in his hands. So, I mean, it's an interesting thing to watch. It's definitely going to be something interesting to watch.
I love the fact that you didn't really care about it. I love that. And I like the fact that you found outlets that didn't cover it, because to be honest, I'm not really into the monarchy very much. Obviously, it was a big event for Britain. So I basically caught everything on Apple News. So I was reading the stories and stuff like that, because basically Apple News was just story after story after story after story and nothing else. But there was channels in the UK set up so you could watch all day the Queen's coffin, and you could just watch people filing past. There was a whole channel where you could spend 24 hours just looking at the Queen's coffin. That's just craziness, absolute craziness. And I know, like the day of the funeral, obviously events started very early and they finished quite late. It was like a 12-hour extravaganza. And, I know my dad sat there from beginning to end watching it. And, I don't really care. I don't care. I'm British. I don't. I do like some of our traditions, because I like seeing the men and the horses in their outfits and stuff like that. But there's a lot of things that I didn't agree with. I don't see the point of a 10-day mourning period. Yes, we had her on the throne for 70 years. She's been there all my lifetime. But for me personally, I had no interest in going to file past a coffin. I know a lot of people wanted to go and pay their respects. And obviously it's tradition that you do have this mourning period, and that they hold the vigils and they go and look at the flowers and meet the public. But I just think, this family's grieving, just let them be, have the funeral, make it a big event. But I just thought it's a little bit too much. That's my personal opinion. Moving on from that. Oh, were you going to say, Kay?
Yes, it just made me think about if there's a figure, specifically a political figure in America that could garner that much respect and that much mourning. I think specifically for the Black community, when Barack Obama dies, it's going to be very similar. It's not going to be $2.6 billion, but it's going to be people waiting in line for hours and hours. I could easily see waiting in line for 15, 16 hours just to go pay respects.
I would be really interested to see that. I think Barack is amazing. I loved him. I really did love him. And I wish things were different and he could have done another term in office, because I thought he was lovely. But, I don't know a huge amount about American politics. I don't really get involved, so it's not my place. I don't really know much about the political parties. I just know there's two, and it's the election is basically a 2-year soap opera. And I think that's fabulous, because it's so different from what I grew up with. And what you were saying about Charles, you think that everything will start breaking away with him. Well, funnily enough, Scotland wants to break away from Great Britain. Wales is also talking about it. And Northern Ireland, who are separate from Ireland, is actually mainly Catholic and not Protestant. So there's going to be little old England before long. And, you know, I always said, and I have said for a long time, when the Queen dies, the monarchy should finish. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, yes, they do some good, they promote charities, and they, you know, open hospitals and stuff like that, and they do go and try and go on, you know, these world tours and stuff, you know, to try and keep good relationships with different countries. But like you said, there is a lot of wrong that the British have done in the past. You know, they were involved with slavery and everything else. They ruled India. Now, I can say when I got my working permit to live in India, there is different prices for different countries. And the USA is a rich country. Great Britain is a rich country. Now, the USA price for getting the visa and getting the year residency was half the price for, than it was for a Great British person. And that's just India saying, you know what, we don't want you guys anymore. So I get it. I do think there was a lot done wrong, but I also think times have changed, and I think the Queen did a lot right too. As far as the funeral itself, it was lovely, but to me, $2.6 billion, which the UK taxpayer has to pay, no, absolutely no. You know, people are struggling financially right now. I don't think that's right. And, you know, we had an A to Z of every single world leader come in, and just the security alone was crazy amount of money. And yes, the pomp and circumstance is amazing, it's wonderful, but just too much, because it's just financially not the right time to be doing that, I don't think. And I think it is a little bit of a middle finger to people that are really struggling when you're kind of promoting this wealth, which is what it was promotion of wealth. And it was a promotion of aristocracy. One thing I did enjoy the fact that people were leaving marmalade sandwiches. I mean, they were just leaving them with the flowers, with these Paddington Bears, and it all came from the Jubilee, because the Queen did a sketch with Paddington Bear. Do you guys know who Paddington Bear is?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you know who Paddington Bear is. So yeah, the Queen did this beautiful sketch with Paddington Bear. Since then, people are obsessed with the Queen and Paddington Bear, and he's become symbolic of her. So people were leaving Paddington Bears and marmalade sandwiches, and the people who look after all the gardens and the royal parks had to ask people to stop leaving marmalade sandwiches, because they were leaving them in their little Ziploc bags. And I just thought that was really cute, but how British, it was eccentric. And people they all get caught up in it all. And, you know, whilst they can't pay their electricity bills, they're going to London, staying in hotels, waiting 16 hours to file past the Queen. And it gets a little bit ridiculous when you think of what people are doing when they're struggling in life. And to me, it was thought-provoking in that way. I do think the royal family's dated, you are right. A lot of people disagree. I know that my parents, talking to them, they said, but we wouldn't want, for example, they wouldn't have wanted Boris Johnson to rule the country. The Queen did have, you know, some say over him. And I think the rule of the monarch, they kind of keep Parliament in check a little bit, so it doesn't become a dictatorship. So that is one good thing, but I don't see the point. And that's my 2 cents worth. I thought it was beautiful to see all the pomp and circumstance, and it was all the horses and the parades and the gun carriage which carried her coffin. I thought that was nice, because that was last used, I think, for her father, which, you know, was 70 years ago. And I think, you know, the woman, she deserved a retirement. She never got a retirement. And I just think rest in peace to her. I think, you know, the funeral's over now. Stop the media coverage. Let it be. Leave Meghan and Harry alone, and let everybody get on with life. And I do say good luck to Charles. I think he's going to need it. I also feel very sorry for him, because he was stepping into the role of a lifetime while losing his mum. One thing I did think, it just popped into my head, was so wrong, was Prince George and Princess Charlotte having to walk behind the coffin. I just think, no, I think, you know, William and Harry both went through it with their mum, and both of them said how much it scarred them. And I know that George is their future monarch and stuff, but you know, 9 years old and 7 years old, it's too much. It's their great grandma. They loved her to pieces. They went on holidays with her to Balmoral and everywhere else. And I just think, no. And I think that decision was wrong. I know like everybody enjoyed seeing them at the funeral and stuff like that, but I just, protect your children, protect your children. So I did think that was wrong. There was a lot of beautiful stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I'm like, nah. So anybody got anything else to say on the royal extravaganza, as I'm going to call it? Because it really was a show, and it was like just the media kind of bombarded everybody with story after story after story. So I think wherever you were in the world, you knew about it and you had it rammed down your throat whether you wanted to or not. Except for Kay, who found a different way of
That's NPR.
yes, not having to deal with it. So, okay, we're going to move on to Diana's question. Diana, what question have you got for us today?
Yeah, so another thing we can argue was covered too much in the news this week was Adam Levine, which is kind of funny because he's been irrelevant for forever. But this week he made headlines for allegedly sending DMs, which people have provided receipts, that he was messaging now 4 Instagram models and his old yoga instructor. Keep in mind, he is married to Bahati Prinsloo, who is a Victoria's Secret model, who, according to like American beauty standards, like you don't get any better than a Victoria's Secret model, according to our society. We'll make of that what you will. So I have a few thoughts on that I wanted your input on. My main question is, he's coming out and saying, I never had an affair with these people. I just was sending out flirty DMs. But you could argue that even though nothing physical happened, it's still cheating. So I want your thoughts on that. And then also, now that, like I mentioned before, he cheated on his wife, who's a Victoria's Secret model. Like, what are your thoughts on that? It almost feels like when you're the cream of the crop and he still cheats on you, like what's going on there? And with celebrities too, because it's just, they always cheat. Look at Jay-Z and Beyonce. They like gorgeous woman. She has it all. And she wrote a whole amazing album based off that. So
I think, okay, listen. So I saw the Adam Levine thing on Twitter, and I was just like, what in the world? And his response to it. And I feel like everybody, okay, so I looked up some stuff. There's a New York Times article that said when it comes to infidelity in marriage, reports say 15% of women have cheated in a marriage, had an extramarital affair, and 25% of men, which I thought was interesting because I thought those numbers would be higher. But they're not, those aren't very high numbers, but it's that it said those are specifically sexual affairs. But when you talk about affairs that are non-sexual, that are still crossing a line of like intimacy, then those numbers go up by 20%. Right? So then you have 45% and 35, and was 20%. Yeah, 35. So I was just like, that's so interesting. So for me, I can't say if Adam Levine was cheating because that's up to his wife. His wife might give him a slap on the hand and be like, oh, flirty text, I can't believe it. So that might not be a big deal to him, right? Like if it was my husband, that would be a big deal for me because that's not how I operate in my relationship. But like I've been married for 22 years. One thing I know for sure is that every marriage is different. Like what flies in your marriage might not fly in somebody else's and vice versa. So I personally, if it was my husband, that would be cheating. But I don't know what Adam Levine's wife said, what she thinks or says. I think it's interesting that there's multiple women. Like, I feel like whenever there's like a scandal like this, there's always multiple, right? It's never just like this one time I did this one thing. I think what's extra gross is that she's pregnant. That's what just adds an extra layer of like ill and like what a trash human to do that to your pregnant wife. And then there's been some debate on whether or not he said that he wanted to name the baby after her. Did you hear about that, Diana?
Yeah.
Right? I was like, girl, he is digging himself in a bigger and bigger hole. It's just getting worse and worse. So I was just like, what a jerk. I can't think of a better word. And so as far as that, I know that happened to that was Adam Levine this week, but then also there's an actress, Nia Long, who is like just like an icon in the Black community of like the beautiful, like around the way girl, like everybody liked her. She was huge in the 90s, made a bunch of great movies. But her cheating scandal came out with her husband this week too. He is like on the coaching staff of the Boston Celtics, and they're deciding he's on some kind of probation at work because he had a sexual affair with someone in the office, and that's banned. You're not supposed to do that. And so he's getting in trouble for that. It was consensual with another woman if she's married. And so there's a whole thing. So people are like, how can you cheat on Nia Long? So that was a huge thing. And so it was just like Nia Long, Adam Levine's wife, Beyonce, somebody's like Halle Berry. Remember Halle Berry got cheated on? And I'm like, listen, but here's the thing, like, it's not about the woman. It doesn't matter who the woman is because it's not about the woman, right? It's if a man is cheating, it's about the man. It doesn't have anything to do with a woman. You have some type of insecurity in yourself. You have some kind of childhood trauma or issues that you haven't worked through. Whatever you have going on is a personal thing. So to be like, oh my gosh, Beyonce's so beautiful, how can you do it? Because it don't have nothing to do with Beyonce. You know what I mean? Like, and so that's really unfortunate that it's blasting in the public, but like you were saying, Diana, like he's a public person, right? And apparently the girl, oh my gosh, did you see the TikTok? Okay, so I had to go watch her TikTok.
Yeah.
Girl, the way she's taking zero responsibility is wild. She's like, he manipulated me. Girl, you are a whole 22-year-old making hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, relax. I'm not buying that whole he's manipulating me thing. Like, whatever.
It's a little.
He's gross, sure, but you know he's married. Everybody knows he's married and got a bunch of kids. Like, what are you doing? It's just like, it's crazy. I mean, she made the choice. So I'm not going to feel sorry for her. It's not up to me to judge her either, because I mean, whatever, people do make decisions every day. But I just think like her trying to set herself up as a victim was ridiculous to me, because the only victim is the wife and those kids.
I think because when you get into narcissism, like I don't know if Adam Levine's a narcissist, right? But those men, they are so good. Well, there are also female narcissists too. I should take that back. Right. But speaking as a female who is heterosexual, like men in my experience, if they are narcissists, they're going to come up with any lie. So we don't know if she was manipulated into thinking that they were splitting, but I also agree with you that I didn't like that she didn't take any responsibility, because there's accountability to be had on both sides of this for sure. But to come right out and just be like, I'm only the victim in this, like, and not even mention Bahati or his children, I agree with you that that was messed up.
Well, I'm going to say, to Kay's point, that the man's responsible. I think you've got to know what's going on in the relationship. Because if the relationship, like, you'll know, Kay, you've been married 22 years, but if a relationship is changing, you know, you're in love, you have moments where you go through bumps in the road and stuff needs working on. If they're going through a bumpy phase, then I think it is both of them, not just the man, because obviously they need to work on the relationship. And yes, he did choose to go and emotionally cheat, but I think it's not just the man, there's two in the marriage. And that's my personal thing. I think it's horrible that she was cheated on, even if it was text messages or whatever. But I do think it kind of it takes two to tango, and it takes two to have a great relationship or a slightly bumpy relationship. So
right. And so the bumpiness in the relationship is one thing, but no matter how bumpy the relationship is, the reason why you have a marriage is that it's two people in the marriage, right? Like, even when it gets bumpy, that doesn't give you any right to cheat. Nothing that happens inside a marriage gives you a right to cheat in a marriage. If you are not happy in the marriage, you get a divorce. Then you can be whoever you want to be with, right? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, I see that, but I also think it's very easy now just to get a divorce. Look how many marriages, say, Kim Kardashian's had, you know, she has had more marriages than people I've probably dated long term. It's very easy to walk down the aisle, say I do's, and then to say, nah, not working, let's get a divorce or whatever. Marriage does take work. And I think a lot of people, if they truly are honest with themselves and they, you know, really feel from the heart, a lot of people do emotionally cheat. Whether or not they step outside the box and slide into someone's DMs and flirt is different. But if someone, for example, if you're in a relationship and someone is turning your head and every time you see them you think, geez, he is a hottie, then that is true. I mean, you're noticing people, you're not fully in your relationship, you're not fully in love if you can be like, oh, look at that person, you know? So I do. Yeah,
I'm gonna come back and disagree. Keep going.
Yeah, so I do think that it is about the state of the marriage and everything else, but I think a lot of people do emotionally cheat. I think if you're honest with yourself, how many times when you've been in a long-term relationship have you kind of gone, I would like to be in bed with him? I mean, I know that when I've had 2 long-term relationships, and yeah, I definitely with one did look elsewhere. I mean, it was going through a bumpy phase at the time. I didn't act on it. I did send some flirtatious texts, but it was a 2-way thing. And at this point, I was doing long distance with the relationship that I was in, and it was very bumpy. I never actually saw the guy again, but we didn't split up till about 9 months later. It just was fizzled out long term. Well, it didn't fizzle out, it got nasty, to be honest. But, you know, I've been cheated on physically, I've been cheated on emotionally. Obviously, when my relationship was, well, it was doomed, but neither of us would admit it. I did emotionally cheat. I didn't act on it, but I did emotionally cheat. I know people in my family that have had affairs, had long-term affairs. Their partner has forgiven them because they've chosen in the end the partner and the families, and you know, they have the greatest relationship. But I think a lot depends on circumstance. As you know, her looks, Victoria's Secret, nothing to do with it. You can have an ugly person, but you can be so in love with them, you can be so attracted to them because of who they are. I mean, one of my ex-boyfriends, he was nothing that I would have been attracted to on paper, nothing at all. Didn't fancy him at all when I first met him, but there was that emotional connection. He was very creative, he was a musician, and I fell deeply in love with him and his looks too, even though on paper, or if I saw him walking down the street, I would have walked straight past and not even turned my head once. And I think her being a Victoria's Secret model, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I think Adam sliding into 5 people's DMs or whatever, probably, like you said, he's a narcissist, or he's just trying to have his cake and eat it. You know, his wife's pregnant, maybe he's not getting enough of that, so he's trying to get attention from elsewhere. There's so much stuff that you don't really know. I mean, I've never really liked Adam Levine. You know, didn't like his music that much. It's not my cup of tea at all. But that doesn't excuse what he did. It doesn't excuse what the women did, knowing that he's married. But we also don't know the story. We don't know if he was saying, we're splitting up, we're in trouble, you know, like all this. And it comes down to it, whether or not anything did get physical at the moment, we don't know. It's just DMs and emotional cheating right now. So yeah, I think people were human. You sometimes do look elsewhere. And I think if you're in a relationship, you have to work on it. I mean, Kay, you're the only one of us who's in a long-term relationship. But you know, I'm sure during your marriage, you've had to work on it at times. There's other times where it's so easy. And you know, I just think you've got to look at where you are in your relationship, the dynamics of the 2 people. Her being beautiful Victoria's Secret model doesn't matter. Her being pregnant, that was kind of really S star star T of him. Because, you know, pregnant women, they need the support of the partner, but it's, yeah, I think there's a lot more to it than just him sliding into DMs, is my personal opinion. Now, Kay, you were going to give me feedback.
Well, wait. Okay, the emotional affair is one thing, but you were like, you can't even look at somebody else? No, I disagree. Like, if we're watching a movie and Halle Berry is in it, and I'm gonna say, wow, she is so beautiful with her hair like that. She's so pretty in this movie. If he doesn't say she is, yeah, she is. He's a lie. I ask my husband all the time, like, do you think such and such is pretty? And he'll be like, yeah, or no, or not as pretty as you, which is always a great answer. So just to think that he's like an automaton and he would not find another person attractive to me would be insane. I would never expect that. I think looking once is being human. Maybe looking a third time is like trying to go after somebody is a deal breaker. But no. I can tell you personally, I was out at an event and my husband knows there's this guy that's on the show who is hot. And I say in front of him, I'm like, dang, he is so hot. So I went to this event and he was there. And I was talking to him because I was like helping him with different stuff. And I was talking to him about, I made sure to bring up my husband. I'm married. I wear my ring everywhere. I have my ring on. So we were just chatting. Anyway, we were getting ready to go and he came in to give me a hug and I went to give a hug and then he went in to give me a kiss on the cheek and I moved my head back like this. I was like, what are you doing? He said, I'm just giving you a kiss on the cheek. Like, it's platonic. I go, not from you, it's not. If you kiss me, we get married. Like, you got a couple kids. I'm about to tell my husband, like, it's a wrap. You're not kissing me. No platonic, no nothing. I do not do that. And he was like, wow, are you serious? I was like, I'm 100% serious. When I left the event, I called my husband on the way home. It was late. I had maybe like an hour drive home. I was like, you would not believe how much you are winning today. I saw X actor. He was like, what? Because he knows how I feel about it. I saw X actor. He tried to give me a platonic kiss on the cheek. He was like, what? I was like, yes. I told him no. Like, just gave him the whole blow by blow. And he was like, wow, you're coming home. I was like, that's right. I'm on my way home. How lucky are you tonight? So I told my sisters the next day. And at that point, my middle sister wasn't married. And she's hilarious. She was like, girl, please, had it been me. Oh, she's hilarious. She was like, had it been me, you wouldn't have seen me at home that night. Like, I was just like, oh my gosh. But yeah, so we're really honest in our relationship. So, I mean, nothing was going to happen, but I just had to tell my husband, I want you to know where I passed up tonight. Yeah, I'm not even coming close. I was like, I'm not touching that with a 10 football. Like, nope.
I love the fact that you're so honest with him, and it's probably why your relationship survived 22 years. I want to just backtrack to you started off by saying that looking at someone once. I was meaning looking at the same person, like every time you see them, you're kind of like, not like just walking down the street and, oh, he's nice. But I was meaning like if you see, if you're at a dinner party with a group of friends, for example, and there's someone that every time turns your head, that's when I kind of think that, yeah, emotionally you're not 100% in your, but it's not like if you see someone down the street and you're like, oh, hello, or an actor or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but, you have a good point. We don't exactly know what was happening with their relationship, which is true. But I feel like he's out of bounds, out of pocket. But you're right. There probably is a lot of other stuff going on. So So how much explanation does he owe just the public, you think? I guess he made a statement, right?
He did make a statement. I feel like statements, I feel like people can't win with them, because if they don't put one out there, everyone's like, where is your statement? And then once people put it out, they're like, that was a terrible statement. So it's like, do we need it at this point? Like, go figure. I'm with like you, like, go figure it out. Like, work on your marriage. You have a kid on the way. go take care of it, and when it's resolved, then come back to us. Like, your actions at this point are going to speak louder than your notes app or your Instagram story.
That's a good point. I was sad though, because I like Adam Levine's music, and I personally think he's hot. I think he's really cute. So I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. I thought he was like a nice, like, family guy or whatever. But
Diana, have you got anything else to say on your question?
I just think I agree with a lot that both of you had to say. I really think that if in my relationship, that would be crossing a boundary for me. I also think as you get older, boundaries change. So maybe it would become more or less, who knows? But that's a conversation you should have with your partner, which clearly it seems like was not the case in this situation. I like that both of you said that her looks, had nothing to do with his actions, because growing up, I am a product of the 90s, and growing up, you had constant, like, you need to be this skinny and you need to look a certain way. And I am not a blonde. I mean, I'm a bottled redhead, but underneath all this, I am as Italian brunette as it gets. I have a butt, like, I'm curvy. So being force fed those Victoria's Secret models, like, that was growing up what I wanted to be. And then you turn around and it's like, it still happens to them, and it's like there was nothing wrong with them. So it was like almost a wake-up call. And even as I mentioned earlier with Beyonce and other famous celebrities who you think they have everything, I was watching I love Billie Eilish, and her documentary, her ex at the time, who he was problematic, but anyway, he just treated her like crap. And I'm like, I think she's one of the coolest people on earth, and he's gonna treat her like that. So it makes you feel, I don't want to say better, but it makes you realize that you might not be the problem. You know what I mean? That it's them. So I'm glad that we had that discussion, and it seems like they just have a lot to work on right now, and they need to go off and do that before baby comes along. Baby Sumner, as he wants to name him.
girl, that part.
So cringe. So
That part.
cringe.
Listen. That is, oh girl. If that alone is true.
He doesn't have much, but he has the audacity.
Girl, if that alone is true, okay.
Yeah.
That's absolutely crazy. I didn't actually know anything about the baby's potential name, but wow. Anyway, moving on. Kay, you have a question for us.
Yeah, so I was thinking about what are some habits or a habit that you guys currently have that you want to break, and then maybe a habit that you don't have yet that you want to make. So I know for myself, as far as breaking, I am really bad at bad snacks. Like, I had ice cream today, and then I went to Target, which is like one of my favorite places, and they had sour gummy worms, which I love. And I was like, I'm just gonna grab a bag, and then I just bust them open, start eating them on the way home. I'm like, I have got to stop bad snacking. But I don't know any, like, I have to really cultivate some good snacks, because I'm always reaching for, like, I love sugar, so I'm always reaching for like the worst sugary snack. So that's something I want to break. And then I want to make, I have all of these timers on my phone. I don't know if you guys do this. I'm trying to stay off of social media. Not completely. Like, I'm not good at moderation. I'm really good at cold turkey. I did like 6 months of no social media once, and then I did another like 4 months of no social media. When I say none, I mean none. I mean no Twitter, no Instagram, no Facebook, like nothing. But I did really good at that. But when I try and moderate and tell myself, oh, I'm only gonna do an hour, I'm really bad at that. So all of my apps have timers, and it'll be like, you only have 5 more minutes on Instagram, and I'll be like, swipe away, and then I'm on it for hours. Or it'll be like, 10 more minutes on Twitter, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I just stay on. So bad. So I need to stick. The habit I need to make is to follow my my prompts, and to limit my time on social media. I just don't. I think I might have to just go cold.
I definitely also have to stay off my phone. because I find myself, I'm doing my casting submissions on my computer. Meanwhile, I'm checking in on Instagram. I am basically stalking Diana and her Halloween horror nights at Universal. And I get distracted at night. I seem to, like, I live on my own now. There's no dog anymore. And I just kind of lie in bed, and like 3 hours later, I'm still scrolling through Apple News, and I'm scrolling through Instagram and Facebook. And I got rid of Facebook for a while. I hate social media. People that have seen my Instagram know I don't post much. So that's one thing. I need to, like, during a work day, phone goes away. I make sure, you know, if I'm coming on here, for example, on Zoom to do this talk show, I turn off all my notifications. And that's what I need to do during the day. So I do think that, because, you know, I had someone texting me earlier and I had actually a whole list of things to do. But yet there's me on my phone replying away, and she's talking about the dentist. I'm like, I've got more important things to do than you being at the dentist and talking about that and a car you've seen. So I need to put the phone away more, because whilst I hate the phone, I'm getting too involved with the phone. And I've noticed since my dog passed and my horse passed that I am on it constantly. And I also find, because I'm on it and I'm on it at night, that my sleeping patterns, I'm now going to bed at like 2 in the morning and waking up at like 9. And it's crazy, because I used to be getting up at 5 and going to bed at 10. And I was so productive. And now I get up and I just feel lethargic. And I need to change that around. I need to get back to being productive, Cat, going to bed early. And I am trying to work on that at the moment. So that's one thing, like UK, I've got to work on. My other bad habit.
I'm gonna write that down, Kat. The turning off your notifications, like going on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah, you have to go to settings and turn it off that way. But the other thing I need to work on my OCD, because that gets out of control. You know, like, I can get back from set at 2 in the morning, and my poor neighbors, I still have to hoover, because I have to hoover my house every day. Thank God I live in a studio, because I have to hoover. I have to do certain things. And it got worse and worse when the pandemic hit. And I've noticed, you know, since Yasmin passed, that I'm doing more and more OCD things. And I need to get that in check. So that's my bad habit. Good habit that I want to do. I say this all the time. I want to get into yoga. And I also, because I wanted to press a reset on my body, I said I would never do it. Diana knows last week that I was preaching away. I'm never going to do intermittent fasting. Well, I decided on Sunday that I was going to start intermittent fasting, and I was going to do it for a whole week. And I was going to do the 20-hour, 4-hour window. So I was going to do it extreme, because I figured if I did that, I could reset my sleep patterns. Because when my dog was here, she wouldn't eat unless it was in the middle of the night because of the heat. So I got used to being up half the night. And now I'm trying to reset when I eat, because sometimes I eat at 1 o'clock in the morning, my dinner. And I thought this would be a great way just to press reset on the body clock. So yeah, I have, for 1 week only, been doing the intermittent fasting extreme. And I do feel great, but I also know my personality. I have to stop it after this 1 week of reset. So they're my 2 things.
Yeah, for me, I have kind of a weird one I want to break. When I'm trying to go to bed at night, I leave the TV on and I just like start falling asleep, which it's not bad. Like, if I'm in the middle of a show and I doze off, fine, but I'm finding it's very intentional. Like, I'm like, all right, I'll just like go to sleep now. And then when I wake up, like, I'll turn off the TV, go wash my face, and then go to bed for real. Like, it's like a warm up for sleep. Like, what the heck is that? I don't know. I feel like that's logical for some reason, but it's not. And I really want to stop that, because apparently if you're not getting proper sleep, like, it's cortisol, and like you're messing with your mood, and like even your skin, it's no good for you. That's just the bottom line. It's no good for you. So I really want to just turn off the TV, and when it's bedtime, it's bedtime. And I'll get, like, kind of what you were saying before, Kay, like, I'll get good at it for a little bit of time. And then when it's like, I'll just do it tonight, like, nope, that's it. We're leaving the TV on and we're going to sleep with the TV on. So that's something I want to work on. A habit that I want to develop, like, I would like to be more active. Just sometimes it's hard during the week. Like, when I'm done with work, I just don't want to do anything else. I want to chill. And then sometimes you get stuck on the couch and that's all she wrote. But I have been going to Orange Theory and I've been enjoying that. So I think I'm going to make that at least an every other week thing. And I've been trying to really go for walks during my lunch break. So I know at least if I can't go to a class that day, at least I am getting my steps in and I'm doing something for me there.
You're also getting sunlight, and sunlight's so important for you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I try and go for a walk because I'm used to being out. I'm used to like hiking every morning with the dog. Or the last 2 months she was alive, it was like walking, you know, locally. She couldn't hike anymore. And now I don't get up. I don't go for a morning walk, you know, and I've started, my whole routine changed. I don't feel good because I'm not seeing as many people. And I've started every evening making an effort to go walking. And if I bump into people I know that I know from dog walking, that's great. We have a conversation, because I think sometimes when you get up and you work all day in your apartment and then you can't be bothered to do anything, you don't speak to anyone, you don't see daylight, and I think it's really destructive. So yeah, you do. You have to get out. You have to see some sunlight for sure. Okay, we are.
As a dog walker, I think it would be great walking other, because that would motivate you to get out, and they make good money.
Yeah.
Well, I do walk dogs on the side. My dog sit. It's kind of my starving artist job. But my rates are horribly low because I feel bad charging people the going rate. I am like the worst businesswoman known to man. Like, this woman asked me to walk her horse for 5 weeks, 5 whole weeks. And I was like, I told my mum, because she didn't want to pay me very much. And my mum's like, you are stupid, turn it down. So I messaged her the next day and said, look, I don't mind doing the odd walk for you at that price, you know, because I enjoy being with him, it's extra money. But 5 weeks, I need to keep a roof over my head, and you've got to pay the going rate. I was like, when I was on set, I used to pay double that for someone to walk my horse, double. And she told me if I didn't like her price, I could go elsewhere. And I was like, done. And, you know, she wanted me to walk him all over Thanksgiving, not even like anything else. And I was just like, I backed out, because, you know, it's like, if you sell yourself for cheap, if you sell yourself for free, that's your worth. And people keep plugging that to me, because I am someone who lets people walk over me. And that's one thing I'm also trying to improve. I'm trying to improve that I do have self-worth, that I have something to offer people, I'm valuable. So that's another thing I'm working on. Okay, moving very swiftly on, because we are just about out of time. I want to quickly know everyone's thoughts on plastic surgery, the celebrities who are doing it, the stories everywhere about people getting stomachs tightened with radio frequency, Morphus 8, you name it. Obviously, we know that people like Sharon Osbourne have had more faces than some of us will ever have. Some of us only ever have the one face, which will get lined and wrinkled. But I want to know your thoughts on celebrities, plastic surgery, and the fact they really promote it, and they make people like you and me, who maybe can't afford it, feel less good about ourselves. So answers have got to be quite quick, because we are just about out of time. Diana.
Yeah, I think if it's something you want to do to improve yourself, by all means do it. However, where I have the problem is when celebrities, they make it look like they were born, or they want people to think they were born with it and it's natural. Not saying that you have to be like, I just got my nose done. If that's something you want to keep to yourself, do it. But then don't be like, yeah, this is my real nose, because we all know it's not.
I 100% agree. Like you're getting liposuction and work done, but you're saying, you know, I've been sucking on these pops and they keep my weight down. Like, no. Or this smoothie, when we all know like that you have had extreme, like some kind of cold press, or you got your stomach staple. Like, I agree with Diana. That's the part that's really frustrating me. Like, do what you do, because I'm not going to compare myself to a celebrity, but like, don't be disingenuous and try and, you know, yeah.
Okay, everyone who knows me knows that I'm obsessed with aesthetic beauty, plastic surgery. I've had a number of boob jobs. I've had a removal. Love Botox, love filler. As soon as I get money, I do the Botox, I do filler and stuff like that. I love it all. I eat it up. But I'm really honest, and I tell people what I've done. And I've done the radio frequency microneedling, you know, like the morphosate. And I microneedle my face myself. That's actually on my list to do tonight. I have a radio frequency handheld device, which I actually use the body one on my face because it's stronger. I'm terrible. I am so vain. It's untrue for stuff like that. I love my hair extensions, but what I don't agree with it being forced down your throat, that, you know, to look good, to be Kim Kardashian, you need morphosate, you need the vampire facial, you need to be spending 20,000 every month. You know, you get one face, you get one body. It's personal what you do with it. For me, I want to be forever young. I want more faces than Cher, Sharon Osbourne, and the Catwoman put together. But I don't have the budget. Otherwise, I would look like Michael Jackson. I really, really would. Because I love that sort of thing. And people know that I'm saving up for boobs and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for it, but I'm just not for the promoting of it on things like Instagram, where you've got your 16-year-old wanting, you know, filler to alter their nose and have a non-surgical nose job and stuff like that. No, keep it off social media. By all means, be honest if you're being, you know, interviewed on a talk show or whatever. Be honest about what you've had done. Don't say, oh, I've never done anything, when you look like 20 when you're in your 40s. But I just don't agree with it being forced down people's throats and making everyday women feel bad because they might have a line, they might have a wrinkle, you know? So that's my 2 cents worth.
But is that actually going to make a request? I know you don't post a lot. I would love to see a post with that wand. Or you would like to needling your own face? I want to see it.
Oh, well, I used to do that. I used to be, during lockdown, I was a host on something called Bigoo Live. And I used to actually, you had to be on for like 2 hours a day. So I spent my time like microneedling my face for people just to watch, basically. So I've done that there. I haven't done it on Instagram. I'm wanting to get my Instagram started again. But I kind of want it to be very work-based and very calculated. So it's about to, well, it's going to be launched more next month because I have quite some good work stuff going on next month. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I hate Instagram, hate it, but it is about self-promotion for your career, basically. So, but yeah, I also microneedle my face on this show. So if any viewers would like me to microneedle my face on this show, I mean, I'd love to do it on all you guys. Perhaps I could go to Diana's house and I could actually do her, because I have my own I have all my pens and my needles and stuff like that. I don't have any numbing cream, so you have to have a high pain threshold. But
that we'll discuss that.
Oh, well, I did once buy numbing cream off Amazon, and it turned up, and I read the back, and it said, not suitable for use with latex. So yeah, we know what I bought. I bought something that was meant to keep male parts going for a bit longer. But yes, I bought that, and I actually did use it on my face to see how numbing it was. Not very at all. Anyway, on that note, we're out of time. I want to thank you guys for being here. Diana Kay, as usual, you've been absolutely awesome. I want to thank all the viewers. We will be back next week, and we hope to see you next time on the FNL Network Talk Show. It's been a pleasure, guys.